HotxxMagOnlineRadio. Originated in Pittsburgh, PA. Turn up. We help promote music, artists, and businesses.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl, Tara J. with HotxXMag Online Radio. We got a special guest tonight, and we're doing this a little bit different, okay? We got not an artist, not a music artist, okay? Not necessarily an entrepreneur, but we have an author come and laugh with us tonight, okay? Super dope, super funny, and he actually has a book out right now. It's called These Got Me Punched, okay? A book of 50 kisses. And he goes by the name of Nicholas Stevens, okay? You guys can actually find this book on Amazon, plus other platforms, which we will also detail at the end of this interview. So make sure that y'all stay tuned. But with further ado, hi, Nicholas.
Oh, hello.
How are you doing today?
Fantastic. I'm being interviewed for a big, huge, wide-reaching show, and I'm not even nervous.
That is awesome. We definitely don't want you to be nervous because, you know, honestly, after reading your book, there's nothing to be nervous about.
Okay.
Yes, your book was super dope. I like how you took the approach on the book. For those of you guys that are tuning in right now, if you go cop the book, you will understand a lot of what we're saying. But we're going to give you a little behind the scenes behind, his writing process and his ideas when it came to making the book. But before we do that, please do me a favor and let the people know a little bit more about yourself.
Well, that's kind of a broad question. What would you like me to tell the good folks listening at home or in their car or wherever they may be?
Yes, so let the people know, how did you, begin your career when it comes to writing books and becoming an author?
Well, I've always loved words, and that's a very plain thing, but it started when I was a kid. I don't have footage of it because the ability to tape such a thing didn't exist then. I'm very old. But I performed a vaudeville-style comedy routine at a talent show when I was, first or second grade probably. And I just liked it from there, and then writing followed soon after. My father, may he rest in peace, saved pretty much everything I ever wrote. And I wrote stuff, I must have been a freshman in high school. And it was, the teacher just gave prompts and then was like, okay, go.
Wow.
And I read them, and something, very clearly came to my attention. I realize is an extremely cheesy thing to say. I always wanted to be in love. I wrote to no one like I was in love with them. And it just kind of kept going.
Yes, and I'm glad that you actually spoke on that, because I was having a conversation the other day with my fiance, and we were talking about when we were growing up, the fun behind writing stories and coming up with your own stories and creating books and sharing it with your families. And, I don't know how you felt, but I know it was always fun to do that and getting people's reactions when it comes to, writing your own story and getting feedback. And I must ask you, when it comes to you writing your books now, would you say that feedback gives you the same emotion that it did when you were writing it when you were younger?
It's definitely a different thing now, because another revelation, not really a revelation, I've had it for 16 years now, but I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in spring of 2006. That was a while ago. But at first, I was always an athlete growing up. Always did stuff, more endurance stuff than speed. I'm not the quickest guy. You can take that however you want. But now it's it's something I can do. I can still write. I can be whoever I want with whatever capabilities in my stories. Although, punch is all much nonfiction. So I stuck as close to the truth as possible. But I have control over something. Mm-hmm. And that feels really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's be honest, having control, especially full control over something, is a wonderful feeling alone.
Well, like I said, I didn't polish up stuff. Like, there was the story of the first French kiss. If I was trying to pretty it up, it would not be that story. Horrible.
No, understandable. And when I was reading this, one thing that popped in my mind was how good your memory was. Because I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember what I did yesterday, let alone 5 minutes ago. So I must ask you, when you came to write the book, memorizing all that, is that something that stuck with you your whole time? Or did you keep a diary of everything that happened in the past?
I wish I could say that, because it's a good practice. Like, if you're gonna be a writer, if you're gonna write something, mm-hmm. Stuff just sticks. I don't really understand it. My short-term memory is not as strong, or I say that. My soon-to-be fiance will say quite the different point of view. But I have actually, and still do, I've quoted movies that I've seen once. I even quote movies that I've never seen.
Wow. That is amazing.
I guess. It's just something that sticks. I don't know.
Yeah. I like it. Now, I have a question. When it came to These Got Me Punched, a book of 50 kisses, I know that people are wondering, how long did it actually take you to write and produce and, give out that book that you got going out right now?
Well, geez. I tell people, because people have asked me that before, I say, oh yeah, it took about 20 years. But the first 10 was just kissing, and I was going to do that anyway. I had to collect the stories to write about. So spring 2006, that's how the book got its title. That's when I got punched. But the book was started, I want to say summer 2005.
Oh, okay.
And then I had probably 10 or 11 chapters before this friend of mine, who the third book has nothing to do with what I wrote. The third book was supposed to be a letter for her. Mm-hmm. So why do I still have it? Well, let's not worry about that. She saw it, she read it, she was flattered, I guess, or scared, I'm not real sure. But it was supposed to be a letter, except that, and this ties back to me writing to nobody.
Wow.
I was married, and she was first a very close friend. Mm-hmm. We would share, we actually kept lists of what we wanted to talk about when the day was over. Mm-hmm. And then we would sit down with our nerdy little list and share. And then she went away. I thought she was going to Mexico to teach English, but she got as far as New Orleans and never had to stay. Because she was helping prisoners of Katrina that nobody cared about. And there were people, drunken, disorderly, spending the night who ended up being there for months.
Wow.
Because nobody cared.
Oh no,
I think I'm going a little off track here, but she went away and didn't give me the address because she didn't really know where it was. She knew eventually, but I kept writing those lists to myself, and I put them in a letter. And the letter ended up being like 96 pages, and there was different fonts and different writing implements, and cut and paste, and I stapled a page, and it was insane.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
But back to this book.
Yes, but back to this book, I must ask you too, you went into a lot of details throughout each chapter on the kisses and the woman. And I must ask you, when you wrote the book, I know that you mixed a couple names up, just so it wasn't too direct, but the women, how did they feel about the the publication, or do they know about it?
I know some do. Mm-hmm. One in particular, I forget her name from the book, because that wasn't her name, obviously. I didn't keep any of the names. I, in my head, kind of snicker because I named the artist formerly known as my wife as Violet, because that means she's almost violent, because she was. Yeah. And I think that was clever. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's definitely clever.
Well, thank you.
You're very welcome.
The one, I wish I could remember her name. I should look in the book, but, anyway, before the, agreement to publish it, well before that, but after I'd written her chapter, I sent it to her, because we're still kind of in touch, and I was like, I'm writing this book, and I wanted you to read the chapter. And the next day, nothing. And I was like, oh, that's not a good sign.
Right.
But then a day or two after that, I get the message back. It was an email. And it was like, I don't cry. It's not something I do. It's not something who I am. Like, it's just, I don't. And she was like, that being said, I cried when I read your story. She was like, it brought me to tears. She's like, you remembered every detail of every scene, and I was there, and it brought me back mentally. And I was blushing. I was like, that means so much to me. And so maybe I only sent chapters to the good ones, but it worked.
Oh man, that's awesome. And shout out to the women that, did approve it and actually, they got emotional from it and felt that, because again, you guys shared some, great moments. And what I like most about the story too is, while you're telling your stories, you always kept your humor. And I like that throughout the book. It kept it real entertaining the whole time.
Well, it's one of those things that I guess that's kind of how my mind works. And when I think of things, like, they become funny in my head. Yeah. And so the person I'm talking about, I believe, is Adele in the book. And she is the subject of the chapter that starts, it was night and I went running. And that, it just goes from there.
Yes. Nice. Now, I mean,
go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's just amazing how you came up with everything. I mean, the whole idea, even of the book of 50 kisses, I mean, having 50 chapters and each one leading up to that 50th kiss. I mean, that's a brilliant idea that you came up with.
It was kind of decided for me.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I told you, probably not. But, so I was, and it sounds way more important than it was, I was a central staff member of the University of Pittsburgh Mentor Program. And hey, that's great. We stuffed envelopes and proctored tests. That's about it. So we talked about anything during, just to pass the time. It's really, actually, in the very first chapter of us walking around the table stuffing envelopes, that's how it begins, because that's how the book, the inspiration, that's where it came from. Because one of my coworkers, there were 6 of us, she went, can you name every person you ever had sex with? which means she could not. But I was like, I work with you. Like, we're not doing that. And because I waited until marriage, but I didn't want to get into it with strangers, like I'm telling everybody right now. But I was like, all right, how about this? Could you name every person you ever kissed on the mouth? And they all looked at each other and they were like, well, who the hell can do that? I was like, well, I'll raise my hand. I'm like, I can name them all in order, first and last name. Because I was a teenager, so it was a lot easier.
Right.
And then, it's Pittsburgh. You get stuck in tunnels. A lot.
Very true.
A whole lot. And so, every once in a while, if I was stuck in a tunnel or a waiting room or anything, I would see if I could still do it. And not about, like, keeping hash marks on it or anything like that, like a tally. They all meant something, even the terrible ones. And feel free to look back at the French kiss. I was so bad. But I can remember them all. And this was not planned. But she was the 50th. And that's who I married. And the marriage was not ideal by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm a hapless romantic. And so I thought, as time went on, I'm going to write a book of 49 stories, all with a kiss in them. They're not necessarily about the kiss, but it's a collection, if I can be as pretentious as possible, a collection of autobiographical vignettes and 3 haikus. But I was going to write 49 stories, except that, fast forward quite a few years, 7.5 actually, I was writing them in secret because I knew she would not react well until she saw that it was for her. Like, she was the last woman I was ever going to kiss. Except that she hacked into my email, found some of the stories that I had sent friends who might be characters in the story, and then I had to go get a spinal tap as a diagnostic procedure for multiple sclerosis. She didn't talk to me on the way to it. She didn't talk to me during it when I could have really used like a lightly held hand or something. She didn't talk to me on the way home. So I decided to go to work. I had showered. I was in a towel, getting ready to shave. She came barreling upstairs, screaming insults and obscenities and baseless accusations and idle threats like, the book goes or I go. But I was proud of what I'd written.
Right.
And she came at me and laid a fist on my jaw.
Yikes.
Yeah. Hours after a spinal tap.
Ooh. Ay, yikes.
I agree. And I don't even know if I wrote about it, but she hit me again downstairs before I got in the car.
Ooh. Oh, man.
Yeah.
So, literally, these got you punched.
Oh, very much so. And as you read the stories, you might think, oh, well, why didn't one of them punch him? I don't know. They didn't.
Yes. And I must ask you, because even with you writing the story, these were moments that meant something to you. So I must ask you, as a writer, do you feel that someone, in order to be a writer, has to feel emotion strongly in order to write a story?
It depends on what they're writing. If they're writing I don't know. Actually, I take that back. I think you need to feel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because even if you're writing a book about World War I gunboats, like, you still, if you feel it, then the reader will feel it.
Right. True. Very true.
And that's what you're trying to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I agree with you on that one. And that goes for a lot of things, you know, whether it be you're writing a song, whether it be you're writing poems, or writing a book. I feel like emotion plays a huge part in that when it comes to having other people relate and really feel the story that you're trying to, you know, give out to them and tell them.
That being said, I did my best to not think of the reader when I was writing the stories.
Interesting.
Like, if they like it, fantastic. If they don't, sorry, but I know it's not for everybody.
Yeah, true. Now, when you first wrote the book and you were ready to put it out, who did you think your main audience was going to be? Men, women, or anybody?
I thought women, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Just because I was always thinking of women. So, yeah, sure. It'd be great if they liked it. But I realized that somebody who was a friend, like a pretty close friend, they read and they were like, oh, well, can I give you feedback? They're like, it's not going to be good. And I'm like, well, hit me. Not literally. I don't want to write another book about it. But they picked it apart, like every negative thing. And I know there's a lot. Because if I didn't realize that there were, just really offensive or problematic stuff said in the book, I wouldn't have grown. And boy, have I grown.
Yeah.
Like, I think about that kid now, and I'm like, oh man, I wouldn't even hang out with that kid unless it was like as a mentor.
Understandable. But I mean, that's a good thing, growth. You know, a lot of people, you know, we highlight that word a lot when it comes to a lot of things, growth. And, you know, even as an author or whatever it is that you guys may do out there, anything that you do is good to see growth and really see what you can grow on no matter what you do. And, you know, you were mentioning that, you know, you wouldn't hang around that person anymore unless you were a mentor for that person. But I must ask you, as a writer, what would you say your biggest strength is?
I haven't even told any, but jokes are a big thing for me too. And, you know, having been handicapped for over a third of my life now, you have to laugh. If you don't, it pretty much comes with a bag and something awful. I don't know how I would do it. I don't want to do it. But, you know, I know how easy it can be to just get in a downward spiral and let the situation just take over. Yeah. But, you know, I make people laugh. And people like that. So maybe it's wit, maybe it's ingenuity, I don't know. And by the way, you said that I was, what did you say I wasn't when you introduced me?
That I said you wasn't?
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't remember.
Well, I did want to say that I think it was industrious or something. But I started a cookie company in 2009, and that took some effort. Like, to get it going, I created all the recipes. It's a different style of baking, so I didn't really learn from anybody. I just made a lot of really delicious trials and errors. Yeah. But I did that, so there.
That is awesome. And I must ask you, what made you want to start your own baking business? And, you know, was that something that you always loved to do?
No, I'm from Ohio, so I never thought about food, really. No, I was managing a lobster house in Maine How basic, I know. Of course I was. And it was open year-round. But in the winter, on an island, off an island, off an island, off the mainland, not that many people came down. So we thinned out the staff to almost nobody. And I was managing, host, bartending, like everything. And what I would do Tuesdays, that was the day I usually worked open to close. And I would start bringing in food, and it became a stone soup kind of thing where the people that were there, I would make stuff for them. And we called it Gourmet Tuesday. And soft pretzels, buffalo burgers, little mini milkshakes. First time I rolled sushi was during one of those Gourmet Tuesdays. And then the person that I wrote that note for, she left. So that was my muse. And I didn't want to keep going. Not being morbid about it, I didn't want to keep Gourmet Tuesday.
Gotcha.
So yikes. So I was like, and then one of the servers, one of the only 2 or 3 that were left, came up and she was like, make cookies, make cookies, make cookies. And I was like, well, I don't really want to make cookies, make cookies, make cookies. Now, this server's nickname was Crowbar because she had beat an abusive ex-boyfriend with a tire iron, but tire iron, I guess, just doesn't have the same, ring to it. And so somebody who has a record, has been to prison, tells you to make cookies, you make cookies. So I went down to the office on the wharf, and I got on a website, a culinary website, and I looked up the easiest cookie with the least amount of ingredients. And it wasn't vegan. Everything I make now is, but it was gluten-free from the start before I even knew what that meant. And so I made the cookies, and of course she loved them, but everybody else loved them too.
Nice.
And then it just kind of grew from there.
Wow, that is amazing. So, even till today, current day, if people wanted to try some of your delicious treats, where could they, get them at, or how can they reach out to you to taste some of those treats?
Well, anyone should email 13thcookie@gmail.com. And that's numerical 13th cookie@gmail.com.
Nice.
And I can make that happen.
Yes. Now, for the people who are interested, because I know their stomachs are rumbling right now, what are 2 of your top 2 famous cookies that you would want them to try?
Okay. And I usually look off in the distance at nothing and say the cookie that started it all is the peanut butter chocolate chip. And the original version, before it was vegan, I would, and, maybe not, I don't know. I don't think my mom's listening. She might be. But, if you used a jar of peanut butter, because I use the natural stuff that you have to stir up, and stirring up peanut butter is a huge pain. But if you double the recipe, you don't have to stir anything. Well, eventually, but you don't have to stir the peanut butter. And then you have double the cookies, so everybody wins.
Wow.
But I did that, and then there might have been bourbon involved, not in the cookies, but in the baker. And I would hack up an endangered species 88% dark chocolate bar, hack it up with a cleaver, and use those as my chips. And I would make that. Yeah, but those aren't vegan, so I had to switch that when I changed the focus of the company to vegan and gluten-free. And no, folks, they're delicious. I know what you're thinking.
Yes.
Like, okay, I'm switching off. Don't do it. They're delicious.
Yes, definitely are. You know, you sent me some samples and they definitely are really delicious. My favorite was the darker cookie. I forgot what you said that was called.
Well, it's kind of a joke, but so much is. They're the rest of it. And whatever dough I have, I combine them and they're the rest of it.
Clever. That's pretty clever.
So that one, and then I think I would share with people new to those cookies. I make a cookie called the Nana Chew, and it is banana cashew butter chocolate chip. And then I took it one step further and used grandma's molasses, but not exclusively, but it works for the name. Nana's Nanas. So molasses, banana peanut butter, or banana cashew butter chocolate chip.
Wow.
And they're incredible.
Yes. Wow. That is just amazing, the names that you come up for them too.
I also have one, it's, chocolate currants, crispy brown rice, puffed brown rice, almond butter. Yeah, no bakes. But they're called et ceteras because blah, 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 chocolate, blah, blah, etc.
I like that.
And they're good.
Oh, man. I mean, who doesn't love cookies? Especially good ones.
Right. That was the whole inspiration for the business.
Yes. Wow. I mean, you got so much going on. And, you know, you're writing books. And, you know, a lot of people who are tuning in probably don't know. But These Got Me Punched, a book of 50 Kisses, and isn't your only book. You have another book as well out, correct?
Yes. It's called Ministry of Love. Nope, it's not that romantic. It's a tip of the hat to George Orwell in the book 1984. In his book, Ministry of Love was the institution where they tortured people. And in my book, Ministry of Love is a really warped, twisted marriage counseling center that only he has to go to. And it's a really unhealthy. It's a book of paranoia and love, but not love for the same person he's paranoid of.
Wow, that sounds interesting. That sounds really interesting. And what gave you, the motivation to write that story?
Well, what happened when I got punched? She knocked the inspiration right out of my head. And I stopped writing These Got Me Punched because it wasn't called that then anyway.
Wow.
But I stopped writing it and I wrote Ministry of Love. And I did a 5-person reading because there aren't that many characters in it. And I thought that would be more interesting to the audience.
Wow.
And yeah, it was great. So another thing about the horrible female, the wife in the book, she's a model and a successful one. So her face is on the sides of buses, park benches, TV screens. He always has the eyes on him. And so that leads to an intense paranoia. And she is the eyes and face and etc. of a line of makeup. And the tagline is, "A look you can't escape."
Wow. It's
deep. Pretty intense.
Yeah, that's really intense, even from the title.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, it's amazing how you can just come up with these stories, write these stories based off of personal experiences. And as a writer, I would think honestly that would be exhausting. But a lot of authors may think, hey, it's an energize, it's a motivation. So in your opinion, would you say that writing is energizing for you or more so exhausting?
Not exhausting and not necessarily energizing. It's motivational for sure. It's cathartic for sure. But, and something we haven't touched on, the punch was the least abusive part of my marriage.
Oh, no.
It's really like, it's in the book about when I realized it. I was looking at a poster for a helpline, and it said, signs you are in an abusive relationship. And I read down this massive sign, and I was like, yep, oh, I remember that day. Yep. And all the way down till it got to big black letters, victim. And I'm like, wait, no, I couldn't possibly, I'm a victim. And that was a very difficult thing to come to terms with, because it was true.
Right.
And so a lot of that, actually, singularly, that led to the book. Because even though they weren't good memories, all of them, but they weren't my marriage.
Right.
So I could leave for minutes or hours or whatever and just go back in time to a different place, a different scenario, and be there. And again, have more control over what was happening.
Right. Wow. Wow, that's amazing. I mean, I can only imagine some of the stuff that you went through that weren't so amazing, but that you got through, you actually worried about, it's crazy. And, with that being said, I honestly wonder, since you published your first book, is there anything that you would change going into your next couple books that you may write that you would do different than the first?
Well, so that note, the 96-page one, is called A Tributary of Madness, because it started as a stream of consciousness. So, playing on words again. But, so that also ties into, like, that was around the time that, symptoms were happening before I knew what they were, and then the diagnosis came down, and I was training for a triathlon, because I didn't want anyone to say I couldn't do something. Mother Nature took care of that, but, there was a lot in that, too. I'd like to get away from it.
Right.
Like, I've written what I've had to write about it. It's helped. Like I said, it's cathartic, but I'm not there anymore.
Right. And I understand that. I mean, I completely understand that. And I'm sorry that you had to go through so much. I mean, even during the course of writing or before writing, it seemed like you went through so much that, I kind of like salute you for going through all that and still, completing your book and putting more stories out there and getting your story put out there.
Well, thank you.
You're very welcome. Now, the biggest question of them all would be, if you could tell your younger self, like anything, any advice that you would give to your younger self, to your older self now as an author, what would it be?
The first thing that comes to mind, and it's a simplification, don't get married. And that's just that, don't get married at 21, because you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, you're girl crazy, and good for you. I mean, as long as you're not promiscuous and you're respectful and everything, great. But don't get married for somebody you didn't date, because I did that. It didn't end well.
Yes, that's definitely good advice, especially at 21. I mean, at 21, I was more concerned of getting my first drink, being able to go to the bar without being carded, partying. Marriage wasn't technically a big thing at 21. You might have the love of your life, but
I did not know that it was going to happen. I didn't want for it to happen.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm a romantic. Some would say too much, and guess what? They would be right.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. I tell you that. I was talking, everybody hit that 21 at some point, and if you haven't yet and you're tuning in, you will get there. And even if you found the love of your life, like in your case, that did happen. I've been there. I've been with my fiance since in high school, so I completely understand where at 21, you may just jump the broom a little bit.
Yeah, but that's fantastic. I didn't know that, and it's, it's motivational.
Absolutely. Heck
it's
yeah.
Inspirational, sorry.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, honestly, your book was too, because it kind of like put me where I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. He really went through with it, and he went through this, but he overcame that. And then when you sharing, the health scares that you had on your own, and you still got through it, and that's inspirational because it shows people to never give up and never let anything stop you from following your dreams.
Well, I like the way you said that.
Yes. It's true. You gotta push through anything, and you're a big inspiration when it comes to that. So I want to say thank you for setting that example for people, the younger generation, older generation, any generation to come that will read your book and get to know your story, because it's really important.
I appreciate that, because I guess you want to call them secrets, or a lot of the stuff that I was feeling or going through in the book, I didn't tell anybody. And that was part of the abuse. Like, I kept it in my head, and I kept my mouth closed, whatever. I didn't share it, even with the closest people to me.
Wow.
Like, until I got punched, I called one of my dearest friends in the whole world, and I told him what had happened. He was like, you gotta get out of there. Like, I know that. Like, I know what I need to do. It's just, it's not that easy. We had a house together, a car together, dogs together. Yeah. But it needed to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you did move past that, for your safety, of course, and for her safety, and just for, more happiness.
Yeah.
So, and
now I know what it should be. I'm in a very healthy relationship, and I'm looking at engagement rings.
Wow. Oh, congrats to that special one.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
This goes back to baking. I went to a beautiful wedding this summer. Mm-hmm. We both did, actually. And, you've read the written proof that I should not be thinking about marriage. I should be off it as an institution, but it was such a beautiful wedding. Like, it would not have been out of order to have tissues in the middle of each table. Oh. Like, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. It was moving. Wow. And I don't know, like, even the cake was in tears. All right, that's a joke, but...
That was a good one.
Thank you.
Like that one. I'm about to use that.
That's all yours. And anybody listening, it's yours too.
There we go. Now,
jokes are universal.
Okay, there we go. See, we all sharing.
Yeah.
Now, I must ask you, because, you were touching on the first marriage, and you were saying, that it didn't really work out. Now, for anybody that is in that same situation that you were in, and they're looking for a way out, what would your advice be to them?
Communicate. Like, it really, really helps. Like, just to share your pain. There's gonna be people who want to help. Mm-hmm. You're not a burden. Like, if they ask you to help, or how they can help, let them. Because you're actually doing them a favor by, they wouldn't ask if they weren't willing to do it. Maybe they have a couch, or maybe they have a car, or who knows how they can help, but they can. And if they ask you, they can. And, yeah. But the first and most important thing is get the hell out.
Okay. We heard that, and you said the most important key to it all. You put the key right in the door and opened it. You said the word communication, and I always say communication is key, especially when you're in a relationship.
Yeah. Well, I didn't necessarily mean talking to her. I meant talking to other people.
Yes.
And just get out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And well, the good news is that you're happy now. You're soon to be engaged. Now, are you thinking about a special day when you plan on popping the question to the special lady?
Maybe tomorrow.
Ooh.
Because there was a jewelry store that I wanted to go to, just a small one, to get a ring, but it was closed today. Oh, shucks.
Oh, dang. Yikes.
I think I can do better than, being cliche and proposing on Valentine's Day, but the important thing is being married.
Yes.
Like, I love her more than anything.
Oh, that is amazing. Congrats to you both. Seriously.
Well, thank you.
You are very, very welcome. I'm hoping maybe there will be another book explaining this happy marriage coming up.
It's possible.
Yes.
It'll be a little bit in the distance, but
for sure.
I want to write fiction.
Ooh, I love fiction.
Well, I've been focused on me, and I'd like to write something that didn't happen to me.
Nice. That would be interesting. I mean, now, what's some motivation behind that? Do you have an author that you kind of read now that kind of inspires you?
People have said that I write like Chuck Palahniuk. I may not even be pronouncing that correctly. But the guy that wrote Fight Club.
Oh, okay.
He writes a little bluer, like, dirty stuff.
Gotcha.
Maybe a little more than what I do. But you tell me, you read the book. Yeah. But I write, I guess, in a similar tone. I've even had people say, oh, you write like Hemingway. I'm like, I do not even. Hemingway's a genius and a drunk, but yeah, I like that because I write, and this wasn't even necessarily something that's planned, but I can write a long sentence and then follow it with the punctuation of a very short one.
Interesting. What great writing style.
I don't know, it happened to me. I didn't really choose it.
Right. Wow, that is amazing. See, I love reading books. I'm reading a book right now. I think it's called The Hunting of Ashburn, and it's really interesting. I forgot the author on that one, but that one's about like a haunted house, and it was inherited down, and she moved into the house with her cat, and they're experiencing some weird, like, paranormal stuff going on.
Okay.
And it's really good. I'm really into horror and fiction, like you mentioned. I like a lot of different horror books, like from Stephen King to Edgar Allan Poe, stuff like that.
Yeah. I love them both.
Yes, great authors. Now,
and like in terms of Poe, like great people, well, maybe not, but he could write.
Yeah, right. I remember the first time I learned about him, it was in high school, and we read a book. Well, technically a poem, and I think it was called The Pendulum, if I'm not mistaken. And,
The Pit and the Pendulum, yeah.
Yeah, that one was really good. And after reading that, they actually gave us the backstory of Edgar Allan Poe, and I was really creeped out.
Yeah. Maybe don't tell that part.
Right.
Maybe tear off the back cover of the book.
Definitely. Don't flip that page.
Yeah.
Man, that is awesome. So, a lot of people are really excited to even read the book. Now, if they wanted to read the book and even grab a copy to support you and your talents, how could they reach out to you to grab your book?
Well, hopefully you know this, or it was apparent. My writing is way more creative than the email to get the book, which is writer Nicholas J. Stevens at gmail.com.
Yes. Now,
and gladly.
Now, for people who want to purchase the book, how much is your book selling for? That way they know when we reach out what to expect.
$20.
Not bad at all. I know y'all heard that. It's only $20. So think about that next time you go out to a fast food restaurant and get a meal that costs you about $15, $18. You can grab this book for $20 to support an author.
And get enjoyment out of it. And it will probably, and I'm gonna go ahead and say you'll get more enjoyment out of it than you will Chili's.
Very true. Very, very true. Because y'all know it'd be hit or miss sometime with Chili's. Right. Seriously.
Just thinking about it.
Yeah. It's so terrible. But I'll tell you what's not terrible is this book. Y'all need to go grab this book. That way you guys can hear everything and relate to everything we were talking about today. Because, once you read it, you'll completely understand where he was coming from. And you'll notice the backstory of what he was talking about as well. Which is really interesting. And you'll learn a lot of it in the book as well. But for people who are curious, do you have any other stories brewing to drop soon?
Well, that letter first, I just have to transcribe it, and I don't know that I can read all of it.
Gotcha.
Not because it's emotional, because I literally have a page that is red felt tip marker on red paper. I have no idea what I wrote.
You sound like me.
Yeah, I'm sure it was profound. I have no idea.
I'm excited. I want to read that one.
Well, no one was ever supposed to, except the person I wrote it for.
Right.
But, I'll share it now, because that's not a thing.
Right. Very true. Wow.
And then I was just thinking, a little teaser that it may help, it may not, but there are 3 haikus in the book, because they weren't really that important. And I would like to recount my favorite of the 3, if you would allow that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, the backstory of the young woman in the story, or in the haiku, could be the first line of the haiku. Because she was from Texas, that's 5 syllables, but that is not the first line. It just gives it sets a tone. So here's the haiku. She had a nice twang. She could kiss with that mouth too. Couldn't taste the twang. And there you go.
Wow, okay. Okay, that was a little sneak peek, y'all.
And the rest of it's better, but
Yes, but they love it. You gave them something to look forward to.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Now, for the people who are tuning in, I know that they love everything that you were talking about as far as your story, the backstory of the book, the other book that you have, plus the letter that you got too. So for people to follow you on social media and just show you all the love and support, where could they follow you at?
I do have an Instagram. I think it's Nicholas J. Stevens.
Okay.
Letter J, not J-A-Y. Just the letter J. That's my middle initial. I think that one's for 13th Cookie.
Okay.
But I only have one Instagram. I have several Facebook pages. Nicholas J. Stevens, Nicholas John Stevens. I think Nicholas John Stevens is the writing one.
Okay. Wow. Well, the good thing is that they'll be able to Google your name. I feel like that's the best thing that you guys can do. You'll find a little bit of everything. You'll find his social media. You'll find his book. And plus so much more. So make sure that y'all do us both a favor. Go follow him on social media. Make sure that you guys find the time to cop his book so that you can read it. show some love, show some support, and I really appreciate you for coming on the show today.
I thank you so much, and I appreciate what you do and the way you do it.
Thank you, and I appreciate it as well. I mean, this is the first time that I have an author on the show, so this is really exciting.
Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
You're gonna get me all choked up.
Oh no tears. Okay, you guys, y'all are tuned in to HotxxMag Online Radio. Make sure that y'all go follow him on social media. Also, check the description below. I will make sure to attach everything, plus a link to the book and his email, so that you guys can make sure that y'all go ahead and cop the book. Stay tuned in to HotxMag Online Radio.
HotxMag Online Radio. Originated in Pittsburgh, PA. We help promote music, artists, and businesses.